always spoke about automation already, because there is no transformation, there is no new technology brought to the organization without even thinking, right? How do I make employees more efficient? How do I reach my revenue targets with resources in hand? So can you please bridge automation initiatives and how hard it is sometimes to transform the organization?
Oh, totally, totally. Automation is something which I think is my favorite ever since I was in school, right? I mean, I would always think about if there was something which I was repeating over and over, I would always think of how to create a process around it. Of course, I didn't have so much of access to technology at that point of time, but I would always create a process around it so that I won't forget it in future and I don't have to go through each of the steps. So that's what I still use the same definition of automation whenever I am trying to do that for my teams or whenever I have been, suggesting it to my clients in past. And I feel that some of the challenges, like you were asking, Erin, right? What are the challenges that people face when they are going on digital transformation or a subset of it, which is automation journey, right? I mean, first of all, there is a lot of expectation from it, and I would strongly suggest everyone to be on a practical set and don't expect too much in the beginning itself, because that's what leads to a lot of disappointment, because we are in so much of hurry to gain something out of it that we very soon lose the momentum. We very soon start feeling that it is not giving us the kind of benefits that it is supposed to give. But I tell you, with a little bit of a patience and putting in the right efforts in the right direction, I have seen a lot of advantages coming out of digital transformation, and a subset of it, which is automation. Now, the challenges that I have faced, right? One, which I already spoke about, right? Second is skill. Again, very, very important challenge, because when the organizations have been operating for years and years, they have the skill in their organization who is loyal to them and has been doing things in a certain way. So all of a sudden, when this technology comes into the place, they still want to do a lot for the organization, but they may not have explored these new skills, and they may not have the right courses. They may not have done the right courses, or they may not even know about what is expected out of them. So that's one thing which I think the organization should really keep in mind when they're going on this path, because they, in short term, may not be able to really create that skill within their organizations as well. And that's where I use the triple B concept. I say you either build, you either borrow, or you buy skill in short term, right? Eventually, you'll have to build it in your organization because you want to make it sustainable. But to start with it, you either buy or you borrow. Best is to borrow. Otherwise, you go and acquire another small startup or something which has these kind of skills. But it is important for you to first convince your employees that these are the kind of things which is going to help them make themselves more productive, more efficient, etc. And secondly, bring in the right skill that will be required to take care of the transformation, at least in short term. And long term, have a strategy how you're going to build around the skill within your own organization. If you're able to sort out these two things, have realistic expectations and have the right skills, that's when I feel you have won more than half of the battle.
That you make it sound
Back to you,
easy,
Aaron.
Mamta. You make it sound easy, definitely. But you know what? I hear a lot about people, process, and technology elements. Okay, those are three elements that keep moving during any transformation. So, can you please throw in data? Because I want to hear how AI is going to help us to go to this next level. But people, process, and technology, what should organization keep in mind when they're dealing with their data first?
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought this question, Erin, because data is something which becomes your best of wealth if it is used well. but it is also something which can really drain your brain power as well as your money if you're not really, if you don't really know what you're doing with it, right? And why I say so is because if you would have seen some of the stats in recently, and in fact I am referring to maybe some old figures in 2021, when I was going through some of the numbers, I saw that every day we in the world are creating about 2 to 3 TBs of data on a daily basis, right? With all the pandemic and everything, I think these numbers increased tremendously. But then, even if it is 2 TBs of data every day, it's a plethora of data, and that's what is coming from our social media feeds and things like that, right? Similarly, within an organization, there are so many various departments, each of them is doing something or the other, and hence if we are capturing all of this information, there is like tons and tons of data you're creating every day. And what I have seen is, you know in the organizations, there is no single person or there is no single department who understands the data from end to end which is getting generated in the organization, and that becomes a lot of challenge, because we know that we have a lot of information, but we don't have anyone who knows what to do with that information, because nobody even understands what this data is, how it is getting generated, what are the sources, what are the definitions. In fact, I have seen in one of the organizations which I was helping with in my previous role, was there was this one client which had 27 definitions for a simple KPI called sales. Can you imagine that, Erin? 27 different definitions for sales in one organization. Oh my God, right? And that's what really made us think that how do we really help organizations with organizing their data better? And that's where we came up with this concept of creating a bedrock of data for them. And that's, I think, is the first and foremost thing any organization should do, to create a bedrock of data, which is the single source of truth for anything and everything that the organization wants to do on this data. And there was a very, very interesting analogy one of my client had given it, but it was a different client than this 27 definitions. But then, what she said was, to make a Caesar salad, if you were to do it, if you have all the right ingredients with you, you may take 2 minutes to do it. But if you have to really bring or create all of these ingredients from scratch, you may take anything between 2 months to 6 months. Because if you're going and growing your own lettuce, or you're growing your own tomatoes and things like that, then you may take anything between 2 to 6 months. But if you have all the right ingredients, then it takes not more than 2 minutes. And that's exactly what happens with digital transformation. Your things are so organized, your data is so organized, your skills are so organized, that to make any to bring any insight out of the data, it takes you very less time. But if the things are not organized, it can take you horrendous amount of time, which takes your brain power, which takes your productive time, and hence it's a lose-lose situation. That's how I put it.